Southeast Radio's Business Matters with Karl Fitzpatrick.
Well, David Walsh is no stranger to building successful businesses. From selling watches online to mastering diversity recruitment platforms, the Irishman has made it big in the US. Now he is ready to help businesses to build more revenue opportunities from existing customers with his startup, Bundle. David, start by telling us why you decided to leave Dublin for a life in the US.
Hey, Carl. Thanks for having me. That's a great first question. I did a student visa. Well, I had 1 year left of college. I was doing a commerce degree, and I got a 3-month student visa. So I went to New York City for 3 months and just fell in love with the place. Realized pretty quickly that I wanted to move here, but I had 1 year of college left to do. So when I got home from the US, my parents were excited to see me, and I told them probably about a week later that I wanted to move to the US when I finished my final year of college. So they were both happy and sad, I think, at the same time. And yeah, it's been an experience. I love it here.
Now, your first foray into the entrepreneurial world was with Chase West. Tell us about Chase West and what you learned from the experience there.
Yeah, absolutely, Carl. That was one of my favorite things to do. So passionate about watches, always loved watches. I don't know, I just had a fascination with them. I had a master's degree in marketing, and I thought at the time, I was interested in e-commerce, and I wanted to put my marketing master's to work. So I decided that I wanted to launch an e-commerce company. And initially, I had no idea what I was getting into. I decided to read a book called E-commerce Evolved by Tanner Larson. And since then, I've recommended that to many different e-commerce founders. It's a great book. But I just learned as much as I could about it. I ended up designing a watch from scratch, found a manufacturer, launched a brand, built a launch video and got a lot of professional photography done and really just brought it to market. I ended up having 500, I think maybe even 1,000 at one point, watches stacked in my apartment, and it was a one-bed apartment. So I think my wife wasn't too happy with me eventually, but she was excited for me. And yeah, look, it was an amazing experience. I got to build a business over 2 years, and I ended up selling it to a buyer in San Francisco when I started my next venture. And it was just an amazing entrepreneurial journey.
Provide us with an insight into Madison, the service it provided, and the growth journey which you enjoyed with that company.
Yeah, absolutely. What an amazing experience. So I moved to LA 5 years ago, and my wife got a job at Netflix as an engineering recruiter. And at the time, she went through an incredible amount of DEI training. They were trying to diversify their workforce, and training the recruiting team was the first thing they could do. So 2019, I kind of wanted to know much more about this. So I learned everything that she was getting trained on. And at the time, I realized that there was a massive market opportunity to create a technology platform that could move the needle much further. So starting with measurement and tracking data all the way through to giving access to the talent base. And so I launched Matheson in 2019. And over a 4-year journey, we built a business to over 70 employees, working with 250 companies like Accenture, Bristol-Myers Squibb, Bank of America, and some amazing brands. And we ended up raising over $30 million from really exciting backers and investors, and had a great experience.
As you say, you raised more than $30 million from backers of Madison, which included one of Virgin's backers, Bain Capital. How did you manage to secure such substantial backing for that business?
Yeah, I think it starts with very, very hard work. If people have this idea that raising money is, it happens, easier than it does. It is one of the most difficult things to do, but it starts with a mentality that I had, which was all around revenue. I said, okay, if we need to grow a business, we really want to have as big of an impact as possible. And technology costs a lot of money to develop. In order to be able to hire expensive engineers and pay for that and build the technology, you need to have investors and you need to have substantial capital. And to have capital, you need to have sales and revenue. To have revenue, you need to, have a product that works. And so I very much focused from day one on the milestones, the revenue milestones that we needed to hit. So working with some early investors, getting benchmarks from them and understanding what a good seed investment round looks like in terms of what revenue numbers you need to get to, all the way through to Series A and onwards. So it really started with focusing on the revenue and the numbers and building a great product and getting great companies and brands. And then once you start to get to a certain momentum with that happening and you're succeeding, investors actually come to you. So you'll get introduced to other investors who, it's kind of a network of people, and they'll end up introducing other great investors. And so it all kind of snowballs and you get a good bit of a momentum, but certainly not an easy task to do.
So let's talk about your latest venture, Bundle. What triggered the idea for this new venture?
Yeah, great question. So in 2019, I ran a company called Jobio, which is an Irish-based company, and very, very good friends with that group of people. I launched their North American operation with a colleague called Don McCormick. And at the time, we launched a user referral program. And so I became fascinated with this idea of like, how do you grow revenue more efficiently through your current customer base? And so fast forward 5 years up until the start of this summer, I realized after doing some more market research that area and industry needed a bit of disruption. And I wanted to build a payments platform that enabled companies to pay their users to introduce more customers. And so the idea for Bundle really came from my own experience, but also from a lot of market research and deciding I feel like this is the thing that I really want to focus on for the next 5 to 10 years. I'm fascinated with sales and growing companies. And so I wanted to build software in and around revenue, which was sales, marketing, customer success, revenue operations. And so when I looked at the market, I said the best opportunity right now that I can see that is least saturated, in my opinion, is driving more revenue to your current customers.
So how does Bundle help businesses to build repeatable and sustainable revenue streams from its existing clients?
Yeah, so I mean, the simple version is we have a product widget that interacts with your users as they use the product. You're able to customize it so it looks and feels like it's your own product. It tracks how they're using the product itself. You understand when they're seeing the most value. And you set the triggers to interact with those users. So when they see value in your product, the widget will interact with them and ask them if they wanted to refer anyone else in their network. So it's kind of a front-end widget that interacts with users. And then it gets quite complicated because once you set up a referral program, you have to do attribution and payments, and that can become a bit of a tangled mess. So it's a really sophisticated payments product and platform. And I'm working with an amazing CTO and co-founder who has a fintech background, which was really important for the success of the infrastructure. So it's really about interacting with your users and people who love your product. Why don't they promote it to their network? There's lots of reasons that they don't do it. If they really love it and you're willing to pay them, then the idea is that they'll change their behavior and really go out of their way to promote your product. And so what we do is we then, if you sign up from a referral code, we'll actually pay the person that referred you on a monthly basis. So we drip feed the reward over a monthly period. So some people might end up being paid for signing up customers 6 months ago. And that becomes a really powerful engagement loop where they're reminded, hey, who else in my network can I sign up? I'm getting paid for signing up customers. And nobody's really done this in B2B, right? B2B software. Most people have done it in B2C. But B2B software has higher contract values, much higher, sometimes $100,000. And those companies are willing to spend a lot more than they are today on acquiring new customers through the referrals. The problem is there's a tax compliance piece. So if you pay somebody over $600 in the United States, you have to issue a 1099. And so we want to take care of all that payment processing, but also the tax burden. And in doing so, we've unlocked the ability to allow companies to pay a lot more for referrals and not have to worry about the headache around taxes. And that's the unique advantage.
So what products and services is this most suitable to?
We're solely right now focused on software as a service businesses, mostly B2B businesses. So we work with sales software, finance software, operations software, marketing software companies, mostly that have anywhere between 1 million and 200 million in revenue. So we have some really exciting early stage companies, but we also have really exciting mid-cap companies and brands that are well known. So it's really software as a service businesses in that realm. And we're mostly focused on B2B, although we have a handful of B2C because people are asking to sign up. So we're not going to say no at the early stages. We just want to learn as much as we can at this point.
And what type of feedback are you receiving from potential clients?
The feedback so far has been good. I mean, the hard thing in launching a technology startup is that you don't have a product to begin with, right? You have to build a product. And so you have to build it by listening to your customers. And if you spend an enormous amount of money on building features that nobody uses, it becomes a very big technical debt. So we spent a lot of time sitting down with customers, understanding what their needs are, doing market research, really figuring out exactly what we needed to bring to market as a minimal viable product or MVP. And that does the most basic features and functionalities. It just proves that this is working. So today, with the feedback's been amazing. It's very collaborative. We're very forthcoming in the stage that we're at. But at the same time, the interest has really peaked. If we're able to really drive more efficient growth for these companies, that's the number one thing that companies care about today. driving more efficient revenue and growth.
I've had lots of B2B tech companies on the show over the years, and one thing all of them say is that the sales pipeline could be anything up to 2 years. So how is this going to reduce the timeline involved in the sales process?
That's a great point. I think it starts with a warm referral is the most powerful lead you can get. So if a sales teams love Bundle because they're getting access to people who have been referred and been told to work with this company and use this product. That dramatically shortens the sales cycle because you don't have to do most of the informative explaining about and selling. It's more, here's how it works, here's how it solves your problems, and here's how we can customize it for your needs. And that dramatically shortens the sales cycle. So it just starts with warm referrals are incredibly powerful. And sales cycles are shortened. Now, it's not going to be a magic wand where it fixes everything. The sales cycles need to be long, especially for complex products. But in the initial understanding and learning and selling piece, it's dramatically shortened.
Now, in terms of funding the business itself, have you self-funded it to date? And what are your plans in terms of securing external investment in the business in the future? Yeah,
fully self-funded today, which I think starts with you care about every single dollar you spend, which is a good thing, to be honest. And we're right now we're raising an investment round. We're actually launching it next week, which is really exciting. We're planning to raise $1.5 to $2 million. We have a good amount of interest already, which is exciting. But we don't want to overcapitalize. We just need enough to get to the next stage and prove that we can drive revenue and prove that we can work with these customers. And as an Irishman that has had first-hand experience of building a successful business in the US, what could Ireland learn from the American business ecosystem? I think it's really powerful to understand traditional businesses in Ireland and what it brings to the table. Integrity is incredibly important. And I think Irish companies have a great foundation to work from. I think where the opportunity lies is thinking bigger. In the United States, people think bigger. The market is bigger. You talk as if the vision is 10 times what it might be if you were talking to a founder in Ireland. So I work with a lot of founders today based in Ireland, just advising and helping them think bigger. And so that's kind of the core piece of feedback that I would offer to Irish businesses and Irish founders and entrepreneurs is don't get, pigeonholed into a smaller market. Think as if your company is global. And when I speak with, investors outside of the US, often they point out the challenges that are going to come with this business and some of the issues. If I speak with internally within US investors, they start to point out the opportunities. And so it's just a mindset shift. You need to be important. It's important to listen to all perspectives, but it's also important to back yourself, believe in yourself, and think bigger. And David, finally, if any of our listeners are interested in starting and growing an international-based business, what advice have you got for them starting out? I think the first piece of advice, Karl, is just to speak with other international founders, right? Maybe even Irish founders. I'm happy to talk with anyone. I speak with a lot of founders and entrepreneurs about launching international businesses. I think in order to understand what it's like somewhere else, you've got to live in somebody else's shoes. So you've got to build a network of people that have, been living in the country or the area that you want to expand into, and get to understand the market, because people have big ideas about international expansion and how it's going to grow the business, but it's so challenging. You've got to understand if it's the right situational play for you and strategy for your company. So I would just start with networking, get to know people that have done it. I think there's a lot of value and experience and chatting with people to understand if it's the right stage or what the right stage might be for your company. And sometimes it's just about setting the roadmap, right? You don't need to do it in the first 12 months or in the second 12 months. It's like, let's talk about this at this stage when we hit these milestones. Then it will be the right decision and right timing. So timing is everything. Well, if you've just tuned in, that was David Walsh from Bundle, and it looks like David is set for a hat-trick of successful business ventures.
Southeast Radio's Business Matters with Karl Fitzpatrick.